Hey there, sixth graders. Welcome to step 5. This screencast is going to give you an idea of how to get started on this step and give you some hints for how to solve the problem of redesigning your client's house to meet all of their requirements. So let's get started. First off, congratulations. You've almost made it to the finish line. If you're working for client A, this is going to be your last step before writing your update, your final letter to your client. If you are continuing on to clients B or C, you will also need to do those steps. However, even with those clients, you're going to have to make a final redesign of your client's house, and this step will help you figure out how to do that. So that means now you've got to actually take your client's house and redesign it. Figure out the new floor plan to meet all of their requirements. Just as a reminder, here are the 3 requirements for client A that you've got to meet. First off, the new house design has to have a bigger area than the original one. And remember, you can find the original dimensions. You calculated those in step 3 at the very end. You've got to redesign the house to have the same perimeter as before or a smaller perimeter than before. And again, you calculated this on step 3, so you can go back there and compare. And finally, the perimeter that you do have in your final design has to cost less than $730. So that's a lot to think about. Where do you even get started? Your brain may be melting a little bit right now. How do you redesign a house? And how are you going to make sure it meets all those requirements? Well, here's some things to know for this step before you begin. The first is you just have to accept that the first idea you come up with for the house redesign probably won't work. And that is okay. That's how real life problems go. It's going to take lots of trial and error. You're going to come up with an idea, you're going to try it out, and it's not going to work. So you're going to have to come up with a different idea and try it out. And it might not work. And you're just going to have to try this a couple of times. Each time you'll learn more, and it'll help you get closer to the final answer. So keep persisting. Don't get discouraged if your first several ideas don't work. There is a correct solution, and there's lots of different ways to solve this problem, which is good because you're not going to just randomly, luckily guess the one answer. There's lots of different ways you can solve it. So you just have to persist and keep trying, but learn from every attempt, because every time you try it and it doesn't work, that will help you get closer to a solution that does work. So, a couple things to remember. And this is the most important thing to remember for this step to help you get started. You're not designing a brand new house. You are redesigning a house, which means, and here's what's really important, you do not have to start from scratch. You do not have to start with an entirely blank piece of paper to come up with a new design for your client's house. You could do that if you want to, and that's totally a valid way of solving this problem, but you don't have to. You can start with the original house plan from your client. You first saw this in step 3, and you still got that paper in your folder. One great way of solving this problem is to start with your client's current house design, and to start, just make one change to the current design. Here's an example. Let's say I'm going to start trying to redesign my client's house to meet their requirements, and I decide I'm going to get rid of this bottom right corner that I scratched out here, and instead I'm going to make that corner a complete corner. I'm going to bump out that corner because I know that's going to give me a bigger area. So I'm going to make that one change. And then after I make that one change, I'm going to do all my calculations to figure out what the new area is, what the new perimeter is, and what the new cost is. Now, that idea I just came up with, it might not work. It might not meet the requirements of my client. But that's okay, because if it doesn't work, I'll just go back to the original design again and try a different idea. And I'll just keep doing that until I find an idea that gives me a bigger area, the same or smaller perimeter, and under a certain cost. And if you follow that method and you persist and you don't give up when your first idea doesn't work and you keep trying lots of different ideas, you will eventually come to a solution. And remember, work as a team. This step is still done as a team. This is not an individual step. And that means that everyone on the team can have the same design answer. In fact, we encourage that. We want you to work as an architect team and come up with one solution that works, that meets all of your clients' requirements. The only thing you have to do individually is you have to make your own individual model drawing, because we are assessing you on that skill at the very end. So work as a team, share your ideas, work together and find a solution that works. And at the end, just make your own individual drawing. Now, here's a hint I want to give you if you're having a little trouble getting started. This is a little mathematical thing that could give you another idea for how to redesign your client's house. I have here 4 different rectangles. Each rectangle actually has, if you look carefully, has the same area. If I multiply the base times the height for each of these 4 rectangles, they all equal 24. 24 times 1 is an area of 24. 8 times 3 gives me an area of 24. 12 times 2 gives me an area of 24. And 4 times 6 gives me an area of 24. So all of these rectangles have the same area. But look what happens to their perimeters. This top rectangle right here, its perimeter, if I add up all the sides, equals 50. So that has a perimeter of 50. Well, now let's look at this rectangle down here. It has the same area as the rectangle at the very top, but if I add up its perimeter, we see that its perimeter is only 28. So look at that. It's got the same area, but its perimeter is almost half that the rectangle at the top. Interesting. Well, now let's go to this rectangle here, kind of in the middle on the left. Again, same area as the other rectangles, but if I add up its sides, its perimeter is only 22. So 3 rectangles, all with same areas, but with very different perimeters. And you'll notice the perimeters keep getting smaller. And if we look at the perimeter of this last rectangle, its perimeter is only 20. So what this shows is it's an interesting mathematical rule. If you have a rectangle of a certain area, and you take that rectangle, you start to make it more square. So you notice that this rectangle at the top here is not square at all. But this rectangle here is more of a square shape. And if you keep the area of that rectangle the same, but make it closer to a square, you get the same area with a smaller perimeter. So that's another idea you could use for redesigning your client's house, is take your client's house and make it more of a square and less of a rectangle. And that could give you a solution that works. So hopefully you found this screencast helpful. Remember, all of your teachers are here. If you're stuck or if you need help, your teammates are here. Work together as a team. And now please go ahead and start working on redesigning your client's house.